A lot of people have wondered whether God's judgment of Ananias and Sapphira was appropriate. If you recall, this is the husband and wife team that lied about the property that they, or at least the money that they received from the property they sold, and then made a gift to the church. And I think it's in Acts chapter 5. Because they lied and they said they gave all the money, but they actually kept back some money to themselves, which, by the way, even I think it's Peter in that circumstance said they could have done. They had the freedom to do it. They weren't obliged to give everything. It wasn't the lack of giving, but it was the lie that God was concerned about. Because of that, they were judged, and they were judged harshly. They were both struck dead. And this seems, boy, a bit much for that merciful God of the New Testament to do in that circumstance. And I think there are two things in order here. All things being equal, it does seem a bit much, because God isn't in the habit now of striking down people who tell a lie. And indeed, as far as I could tell, he wasn't in the habit of doing that regularly in the past either. Under this set of circumstances, though, all things weren't equal. What we had here, and this is our best assessment of the circumstance, we have to ask the question, why was the judgment so harsh? And the answer, I think, is in part because, as Peter puts it, they were lying to the Holy Spirit. And what was significant about that is the church is on its first legs. It's just out of the womb, as it were. It's just struggling to get its foundation and its support. And what is a concern, I think, from God's perspective, is that the church doesn't start out corrupted right off the bat, with people getting into the kind of religious showmanship that the Pharisees were guilty of, where they'd make a big show of giving a little bit of money. These people were making a show of giving money when, in fact, they hadn't given everything. There was that they said they gave. There was pretense there. And it seems like this could have given way to a whole lot of implicit corruption in the behavior of the early Christians in a way that would have deeply corrupted the entire enterprise of the early church. And if I recall the text properly, when they were both judged in this fashion, and the news of it spread throughout the Christian community, the people were struck with fear. In other words, they got the message that God was serious about them being serious. And this had a salutary effect on the entire church. Incidentally, this isn't the only time something like this has happened. If you think about the Old Testament, the kind of crimes that were capital crimes, I think there were like over 20 crimes that were capital crimes, and over half of them were religious offenses. That is, people got killed for what things that we would consider now to be inconsequential. They broke the Sabbath. They took things that were banned in Jericho, for example, and that's why when they went to attack Ai, they lost that battle. And there was a judgment there, and so somebody had kept a bit of gold, and that person was consumed by God, destroyed. His whole family was killed, and they were swallowed up by the earth. I mean, why is such a big deal? Again, because God is concerned about the purity of his people, especially at transitional stages where that really makes a difference to his overall salvation purpose. And so it was really critical at that time, keeping the Sabbath, keeping separate from the rest of the people, the Gentiles not becoming eclectic and similar to them, to keep culturally distinct from them in order to keep the message pure. And by the same token, I think something similar to that was going on in the New Testament with Ananias and Sapphira.